So it's O.G.Starwars, your Legends gal, trying to make it in this discounted world. And today I'm going to do my review of Mandalorian episode 4, finally. And first off, I think it was an okay show. There's a lot of things that I am looking at that I feel that either they need to further expand on their lore a little bit more to make it clear, or they're breaking continuity. So we shall see what's going on as the time progresses with new episodes. So first off, we get the Mando having his flashback again with his village, his world, or whatever being attacked. And so we see that. And then we see the Mando go to a world that looks quite similar to the village that, or the world that he came from. So there's a lot of similarity there. And at first I thought maybe he was returning back to that world, and I am not sure if he is, but his flashbacks reveal everything's kind of quite similar, but then it's not when you look at the village of his people and the village of these people that he is going to go to. And then he goes to, he still has baby Yoda with him, or not baby, the baby. And at first he's telling him to behave and stay put, he'll be back for him. And you know, eventually he just ends up taking him, or yeah, him with him. And as he gets to the cantina, or the we'll just call them cantinas, you know, it's because the movie is Western based and stuff. We'll just continue to call these little hubs, these little ports, these little restaurants or whatever, cantinas. So as we see him, he gets there and, you know, he orders soup for the baby and he settles in, and then eventually he sees a woman, and that's Cara, and they end up duking it out and are fighting. And she attacks him, and what is disappointing, or not disappointing, but kind of made me feel indifferent about it, is that he's got Beskar gam on. So basically he has Beskar suit on. It's a Mandalore suit, and established in the lore, that is the strongest, most valuable iron, steel, or whatever you want to call it. I've heard it called several things, like alloy, iron, steel, metal, or whatever. And that's the most precious metal you can get in, besides cortosis, in the lore. And I don't know if cortosis is now canon now in Disney. I have no idea. I never looked it up. But Mandalore armor, or Beskar, is still, of course, canon because we have Mandalore. But how it's used and how it's sculpted and everything is basically a little bit different. And so we shall see. But what was off-putting for me was the fact that Cara, you know, she attacked him, and she's a great fighter. We established that she was a part of the Rebel Alliance, and she was with the drop team that went to Endor and did some cleanup or mop up over there, I guess you can say. And so we already established that she's a fighter, and you know, that's cool. You know, I had no problem with the fight, you know, because that's who she is. But the thing is that she can punch his armor, you know, like punch his helmet, punch his armor, without having any, you know, pain or repercussion or whatever, you know, injuring the hands, or, you know, hurting, or, you know, pausing from it, you know. And I've debated with many other people on this, and it'll probably still remain a debate. I feel because it's Beskar gam, that even if she's wearing gloves and stuff, it's like this metal that is, again, established as one of the prized metals. And we know it's prized because the Mandalorian, you know, got it back from the Empire when he finished his bounty, when he turned in his bounty, you know, so he got his reward. And so it's already established in the Mandalorian series that, you know, of course, that's a precious metal. and that the Empire took it and possibly may have used it for trade or whatever. And so that's already established how precious that metal is and the value of it. And so the strength of it, basically, you know, one would think that even if she punched his helmet, yeah, I understand that, you know, the blow of a punch can, you know, make your head move, whatever, and that it can also resonate inside your helmet or whatever. And however, you know, we've seen like MMA fighters, and I'm going to use this because everybody debates on her being a fighter, you know, in real life and all this stuff. And we've seen people take punches to the head with no problems. And so if your head is protected by something as precious in the lore that it is, the Beskar helmet, I think that we should have seen, you know, her have struggled with hitting the helmet at least. And so that's just my my take on that, you know. So I know people may disagree with me, and that's okay. That's we're just having a conversation, you know. And I'm basing this on lore. And so again, if we compare this with any metals in our real life, okay, so what metal will we compare it to? Because we don't know exactly how to compare it. And you know, that's one thing that I've heard people, well, if it's steel, if it's this, if it's that, but we're talking about a lore metal that is very, very precious, and one of them that's a very, very sought out, not only by the Mandalorians, and they want they like their metal because of how it protects them. And I've read that, okay, so Beskar in canon versus Legends. Legends Beskar, Jedi sabers couldn't even penetrate it. And so that's why we see Jason Solo do the shatter points, because his saber can't penetrate it without he had to compromise. So he had to, you know, use shatter point to find all the weak points in it in order to shatter it and use his lightsaber. But now that I've researched this in Disney canon, if the lightsaber scratches it or grazes it or whatever you want to call that, it's, you know, it's not going to penetrate. But if you go straight in from what the lore says, now it can penetrate. So so we see the difference now going on with Beskar. So again, this will still be a debate, and I'm willing to have, because it's fun to explore, it's fun to compare and contrast. All right, so let's get back to the Mandalore. So after they fight, you know, they basically come at a draw. And yeah, she draws her gun first, and then he draws his blaster or whatever. And now the thing is that the Mandalorian armor, the Beskar Gem, is supposed to reflect bolts. And so if she would have shot, yeah, she probably would have perished. It probably would have went back at her and got her in her face or whatever, or ricocheted somewhere else. All right, so, and then from there they leave the cantina and come across two men that are basically, I want to say strays, but they're part of a village that Cara and the Mandalorian are taken to. And they find out that there's AT-STs that are, and that the Empire, the remnants of the Empire, basically, we'll just call it that, are there on the planet, and of course they're going to attack. Okay, so if any place they can attack, they're going to attack the village. You know, they're not going to attack the little community or the little cantina area they're in. They're going to attack the village, because that's where the Mandalorian's going to be, basically, right? And so Cara tells them that the AT-STs are invincible, that she's seen them take down many with no effort, you know, like many places, attack many places and stuff. And I watched this a couple of days ago, you know, during Thanksgiving, so I'm just going off the top of my head now, so excuse me. But so she tells them that, and that they're invincible, and they're not, they can't be defeated, which I found was very off-putting, because then you think about Empire Strikes Back, you know, the Foundation movies. And yes, the 6 movies are now the Foundation movies. They always have been, and I will continue to say that. And then I get to think about, well, she said they're indefeatable or invincible, or however she worded it. I wish I wrote the quote down. So comment below, let me know exactly what she said. That they will have to train to fight him, defend him. And yeah, it's a community of farmers, and they're indigenous to the planet, obviously. You know, that's what I'm guessing. And one thing that I find that still with a group of people, and no matter if they're farmers or what, where's your warrior society? Why aren't your men forming a warrior society? Why do they have to train to fight? Yeah, I understand that maybe that's a peaceful village and stuff, but still, you still have a peaceful village and still have a warrior society. And, you know, I was never very into the Clone Wars because I'm not a huge Filoni fan, but you know, everybody, and I went and researched it too, and everybody's referring back to an episode of the Clone Wars, and yes, it's just like that episode. And like I said, what plagues me is that why are the men having to learn how to fight? Why don't they have their own warrior society, especially in an indigenous culture? So, you know, so we have that. So the Mandalorian Kara, you know, train him to fight, you know, within record time. And, you know, it's just because it's a little series and stuff. So, you know, the time it needs to be done. And, you know, and then we see the woman learn how to shoot, and she's basically the best shot of the village. And, you know, so we've had many people debate about that as well. And I don't see nothing wrong with it. However, again, where are the men, and how come we don't have any prize shooter as men as well? You know, how come we only just have her? You know, again, no problem with it. It's just everybody was training to shoot, everybody was training how to use this, use a staff. You know, it was a nice little piece of like training there. Again, reflecting back to Filoni's The Clone Wars. And so the ATST then comes and attacks, or actually they go and bomb a facility before the ATST comes in, and they are successful. And as they blow up the little facility, they're thinking that they're going to get rid of the Empire, I'm guessing. The ATST comes out, and it has red eyes or red lighting, so I'm thinking it's just to make it look scarier. And then we also see the Jawas back in a couple episodes with red eyes. And I don't know if they're just doing that to make them look more sinister or what, but I thought maybe it was like infrared lighting that they were using for that, to see in the dark. But then again, they use their own lights to see. So I think they just did that to make it look sinister. And so have they always been red like that? I don't know. So we have them, and you know, they put off a good fight. And then again, I refer back to Empire Strikes Back, how easily the Ewoks were hunters, you know, gatherers, little tiny warrior bears basically, from Endor. And so I get that, you know, they have tactics, and of course the Empire was there before the rebels were, so they had to deal with the Empire a little bit longer. And they're a very small species, so you know, they have their warrior species. And so, but again, I question this group of people, are the people from that world, how come, you know, they don't have their warrior society? So they battle the ATST, just one. And again, I go back to Empire Strikes Back. Why couldn't they just easily just use a cord and get up in there and put a little bomb in there, just like Luke did, you know? And I mean, he made it look so easy with the AT-AT. And you know, so that's probably just for drama, probably just for some excitement and action, and I get it. And finally, the ATST, you know, they continue to shoot, and they hit some good marks, and the ATST looks like they cannot aim whatsoever. And I don't think I've seen any villagers get hit or hurt or harmed. Not like we've seen in Empire Strike Back, when we seen Ewok shot, and we see the drama of the battle just in that little scene. And so the ATST loses ground and falls, you know, starts falling over, and so that's when they fully get to defeat it. And I stated before on my Twitter that it was, uneven ground by from the riverbank, because they are by a river. But then thinking about it, I think it was maybe before the river, but I'm not sure. But either way, they lost ground. The ATST lost footing and falls over, and then they basically defeat the ATST. And so, the Mandalorian Kara saves the day. The village is fine. And then we find out that, after that or before that, we find out the Mandalorian can't take off his helmet, that it's against their code. It's against their culture. I understand that Mandalorian have different, clans of family, and maybe some family or clan traditions and stuff, but the overall culture, they adhere to one guideline, or like a set of guidelines as within the culture and stuff. So I'm very curious to see what how they explain this as well in their series. We see with Filoni's, and this is, I'm talking Disney canon, and the Clone Wars is now officially on considered Disney canon, or Disney canon or discanon. So I'm very, and Rebels as well too. So I'm very interested in seeing how they expand on the lore, and how maybe he has to adhere to different set of rules than other Mandalorian clans or region of Mandalorians. We'll see. They're saying that there's only a few of them now because of the purge that happened. And so the clan that he visits, or the group that he's visit, is that his clan, or is that them? Is that who's left? So I can't wait till that's expanded on. And so we find out that the fobs are still tracking the baby. And what I don't get is, if the fobs are still tracking the baby, is there a device on the baby? And if there's a device on the baby, and the Mandalorian knows how that is, or how it works, because he's a bounty hunter, why doesn't he take the device off the baby? How is this baby being tracked? Is it a genetic tracking where his genes were, his DNA was inserted in these fobs, and that's how they're tracking him? Or is there something implanted in the baby? And if so, why doesn't the Mandalorian know exactly how that works? He is a bounty hunter. I'm guessing that should be known how the tracking devices work. And so, we have the baby being tracked still, and realizing this, they can't stay put on the planet there. And the Mandalorian did have this attraction scene to the main woman, the widowed woman, the single mom. And I thought that was a little contrived a little bit, and he eventually takes off his helmet to eat, and in front of the door or the window, but obviously no one looks up. And so I was like, okay, whatever, it is what it is. So overall, I think it's a 6.5 out of 10, or a 3 out of 5 thumbs up, as I say in my little rating for O.G.Starwars. It wasn't the most interesting one. There's, like I said, there's a lot of questions about the lore and continuity that I have, that, like with Empire Strikes Back, with the ATSTs, what Kara said. And again, she was a part of the Rebel Alliance, the drop team that went in and cleaned up, mopped up at Endor, and then left, because after that, it turned into a peace delegation, and she's like, that's not who I am. And so we get it, that she likes to fight, that she is a soldier, she's a warrior. And so that's a very interesting little continuity thing on her part. But then to say, talk about the ATSTs as she did, I just have to think about the battle at Hoth and the battle at Endor with those type of equipment, the AT-ATs and the ATSTs. And then again with the Mandalorians, we'll see how that goes, and the not taking off the armor or the helmet at all, especially when we see in Legacy of the Force, when Mirta marries, you know, they take off their helmets and stuff. And, you know, so I'm just very curious on to see how they're going to expand this. And like, if they have a partner, how are they going to, I mean, no one's supposed to see their face, right? So if they have a partner, if they get married and they create a family, how does that work? So with the new lore. So this is just my little take, my little review. And please share any of your comments below, you know, from what I stated and some of the points that I pointed out with continuity, what I've noticed. You know, we can expand and conversate in the comments. And, you know, we're all learning. You know, Disney is making this up as they go now, because they went ahead and discontinued the original EU as their source material. And basically Kennedy freaks out and says, we have nothing now. And so comment below, like and share. Thank you very much. And you guys have a great day.